Welcome. This your boy MongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about you got to do full gear prediction because I forgot to do it for the Dynamite review. Sorry about that. But also The Rock did us a favor. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know what he was talking about. Don't care. But he went on there and decided to lie and say that he was considering going to fight in Pride because he wasn't making enough money in WWE. Which, I mean, I don't know. He is becoming Hulk Hogan. He is becoming a Hulk Hogan for the new generation, bro. I mean, The Rock he likes telling fanciful tales. He loves telling fanciful tales. But we're going to get around to talking about The Rock lying in a second. That's going to be our top story because I don't think anybody cares enough about Full Gear for that to be the top story of ours. We also got some odds and ends I'm probably going to go through before we wrap things up. But there's also was a media call, and nobody asked Tony Khan an important question, even though he said he was making money hand over fist. That's what he said. So how are y'all ready for? Are y'all ready for The Rock? Really? Oh wait, man, is anybody even here? Where's everybody at? Okay, let's do this because I made the mistake of trying to get something done, and I'm kind of distracted. Sorry about that. How's everybody doing? Is everybody okay? AJ3, what's up? You all right, man? You know, okay. So I got the audio queued up for The Rock, which is what I was trying to do. But I had to I was trying to also create a thumbnail at the same time. Like I got really distracted because I was trying to make the thumbnail when the video started. Because I was like, oh, it's too late. It's too late. But so what? Wait, I still got to look up Full Gear card. So let's look it up. Full Gear 2023 card. So are you guys? You broke AJ3 broke his foot. How in the world did you manage to do that? Don't tell me you out here being clumsy as an adult. Clumsy adults, brother. But hopefully you feel better, man. Don't take too many painkillers, and stay off of it if you can. So, all right. It's enough time has passed for me to talk about. We're gonna play The Rock. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. It's about this comes to us via Bloody Elbow, who actually clipped the audio. I thought I was gonna have to read it. I took a couple of extra minutes to look because here it is. The Rock on Joe Rogan podcast talking about MMA.
In 97, during that time.
What on earth?
In 97, during that time, while I was still going out to LA and working out, we were crossing all the MMA guys. Pride just opened up in Japan. So I was seeing all these MMA guys going over to Pride. You remember that time, right? I think you might have been with UFC at that time, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, I was making $150,000 wrestling 235 days a year. So do the math of that, and how much you're making per match. We start hearing, hey, these guys over in Pride are making 250, 350, 500. And I thought then, well, fuck, I don't think I'm going to make it in WWE. People are booing me out of the arenas. I can't be myself. They're telling me to fucking smile. I don't want to fucking smile. It's not who I am. I start talking to Ken Shamrock at that time, who was wrestling with us. I run into Mark Kerr. I start talking to him. He told me a little bit about Pride, and I have this idea in my head. Well, maybe I should train to MMA and go to Pride and make money, real money, and then I don't have to smile. I'm sure I'm going to get fucked up over there and knock one of my lungs loose, but maybe I could do something.
So The Rock is trying to tell everybody that he intended, or he was greatly considering, going over to Pride Fighting Championships, which it wasn't called that at the time. Well, I think it was in 1997. Now, I am very light on mixed martial arts history, but I'm pretty sure Pride started in late 97. All right, it's probably mid to late 97. I think somebody said that it opened up in October of 97. And in October of 1997, The Rock, he still would have been I think he might be turning, well, he might still have been a babyface. He might have still been a babyface. Even though I'm not sure. The first fights were held on October 11th, 1997. So let's look up what the WWE card for an October 1997 pay-per-view was. Which was what show? It was Bad Blood in Your House was October the 5th. So 6 days before Pride. And let's look at the results for the show. We just watched this show. Rocky Maivia was in the Nation of Domination at the time. Ergo, he was not a babyface. He was a heel. So we already know that's a lie. All right. Secondly, Ken Shamrock, he was in WWE at the time. Some of the money that these guys were making in mixed martial arts was not the money that was going to be made later on. Like Pride is very well known for paying guys a lot of money. But the stuff that you hear about guys like Mirko Cro Cop making $450,000, this will be years later. All right. You're talking about hearing about Pride during 1997 when they were having their first events. I doubt they were paying people that kind of money at the time. All right. Maybe years later, they were paying people because Pride, what Japan is known for paying people a lot of money. You know, they pay you to travel and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, I don't believe you, Rock. I guarantee you, Ken Shamrock probably would have quit and went and did Pride if he could make $300,000 doing so. And he would have been, and then here's the thing. Not only did Ken Shamrock, who couldn't apparently make that kind of money in Pride, or unless he would have walked off his WWE contract and did it, but Dan Severn came in later on, and probably the next year maybe. And come on, I doubt look, Japan is different from the United States. I know in the UFC, they weren't making anywhere near that. In fact, some of the guys were barely getting paid when it comes to the really early UFC cards. This would have been 4 years into the UFC. The UFC started in 1993. But I sincerely doubt they had 300 racks for an untrained, not really that well known at the time, pro wrestler named Dwayne Johnson. I'm pretty sure he would not have gotten a $300,000 deal. That doesn't make sense. And then some very smart wrestling fans noted, $150,000 per match was his downside guarantee, which means that it didn't take into account any bonuses that he might have had for selling merchandise, t-shirts, or doing anything else, video games, action figures, etc. He was likely making a lot more money than that. You know, I think he was making a lot more money than that. L-Train doesn't think he was maliciously lying. Look, The Rock he's an exaggerator, you know. As far as I can tell, it would have been easy to know. You know, you could say you weren't in a good spot on the card at the time, which would have been facts. That's absolute facts. But if you were making 150 racks as your, you know, baseline guarantee, you were still doing very well in the business. Now, there still would have been some things on top of that that would have made it worthwhile doing. But The Rock has this desire to still be the common man, which is why he does the whole $7 entertainment and all this kind of stuff. With some people are saying, you know, he never got that down bad, which I don't know. I don't know if he was ever sleeping in his car and all that other crazy stuff he was talking about. But the idea that The Rock saw Mark Coleman, and he may have known Mark Coleman, he may have seen him, and then decided, I'm going to go and do Pride. I was considering it. You have no combat sports background. None. You have none to speak of. You played football in high school, in college, you know? That's that. Compared to some of the guys who were in Pride, like Hoist Gracie was on the first Pride card. There's like tons of people who are on the first Pride card that have been fighting for years. It's not just a matter of they would have knocked his lung loose. It's a matter of it wouldn't even been competitive because he doesn't have the foundation. So it doesn't even make sense to even think about that. And then the next year, he became even bigger. He became the world champion the next year. So it's really weird when I hear The Rock say stuff like this. And he is veering off into Hulk Hogan territory, where he started telling these fanciful damn lies. And I don't get it. You know, I don't get why he's doing this. You know, I don't understand it. I think he wants to be relatable, and he doesn't want people to think that he was spoon-fed all of his success and that he had to work very hard. And look, you could say that, you know, genetics, timing, nepotism, you know, good relationships, networking, all that kind of stuff got you to a certain point, but then you had to do the rest. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? And a lot of people don't really know that about The Rock, but that was the case, you know? And it wasn't necessarily nepotism, but it was pretty sure that when WWE signed him, they wanted him to be a star. They were going to do as much as they possibly could to make him into a star. He didn't have to struggle. He had to struggle with like a, you know, kind of silly gimmick, but they still made him the Intercontinental Champion. He still made a card. He still made WrestleMania that year. He still got a video game, and it was in the video game. He still made action figures. He still had T-shirts. He still had other types of merchandise. What's the issue here? He had to slow roll it, you know, like everybody else. But this is this $7 entertainment sort of thing that's really kind of what makes me laugh so much is because every time The Rock talks now, it's something that's completely and totally implausible. And I just feel myself getting it to the point of Hulk Hogan. You know, like he is full of shit. And I think this whole thing started with the politics, right? When he came out and started doing the Joe Biden stuff, like, which I didn't care about. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I didn't really care about it. And then we started seeing some of the other stuff, like the whole, you know, Black Adam thing. Then it was the stuff with Oprah and Maui, you know, and it started being a bunch of other stuff. Now he's saying he is good friends with Ken Shamrock. That part is true. You know, that part is facts. You know, and but I'm saying, like, you mean Ken Shamrock, who couldn't get out his contract, who definitely would have been making $300,000 if Pride had it to give it to him. That would have been worth it. That'd have been worth his time. You know, for one fight, that'd have been worth his time. But I don't know, man. The Rock just feels like a straight up liar to me, cuz That 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 Maui thing threw me for a loop. Him and Oprah standing there looking mad dumb. I'm like, man, what is wrong with The Rock these days, man? Get your boy, man. What's wrong with this guy? He gonna have a fund that he probably didn't put no money in. All money in, no money out. I don't know, man. I don't understand it. And I think I think he's just trying to be relatable. You know, he wants to still be relatable for people to look at him like he was the underdog. But the Rock, geez, man, it's not believable. Like I watched the first Pride show. I think UFC uploaded the first Pride show onto their YouTube channel. It was a small, like what everybody know Pride to be was years later, you know, with Rampage Jackson and Vanderlei Silva and Crow Cop and all of them. That was years and years later. You know, we're talking maybe 3 or 4 years in. That's when the big money started rolling in. The Rock was already retired by then. You know, no, I just started the show. Coach Sean Art, I just started the show. Did I happen to hear about Jim Cornette versus Top Dollar? I saw where the guy who works for, I think, Fightful had screenshotted a picture and started calling Jim Cornette a racist. I saw that. I did take note of that, but I didn't want to follow down that rabbit hole because who cares what these people think? I didn't think it. Plus, I didn't think anything came out of it that was too funny. Outside of Jim Cornette mocking Top Dollar for not being able to jump over the top rope, and somehow, well, I guess the account that was being, I don't want to go too far into it, but the account that Jim Cornette quote tweeted or retweeted was an account with the name of Didn't Do Nothing, which is a racialized epithet towards black people because every time somebody get arrested or shot, they didn't do nothing. So certain white folks would say you're part of the Dindu tribe, DINDU, the Dindu tribe. It means you didn't do nothing. And so that individual had posted the GIF of Top Dollar not being able to jump over the top rope, and then Jim Cornette retweeted it. But that was bizarre. I don't know. That guy seems like a race grifter anyway. I think a lot of these people do. You know, you don't gotta like him, but I don't know. Whatever. But back to the Rock lying. The Rock clearly full of shit. Who in the world would have believed that The Rock, and how long would it have taken him to be an MMA fighter worthy of Pride's time? Now, he was actually more likely to be able to get into the UFC because the UFC at the time was basically tough man contest. A lot of those guys had a lot of experience. Some of them did, but it was basically a come as you are kind of deal. And those guys barely got paid, you know? So I'm not believing it. But he probably could have gone to Japan and wrestled and made more money, depending on how Japan was as a territory at the time. He didn't need to go. He didn't need to say, you know, I was going to go fight in Pride. Well, I don't get that, you know? I don't get that. That flummoxed me when I first heard it. I remember reading it, thinking like he clearly was joking. And then I saw the video and I was like, he can't be serious. I know Joe Rogan has to be sitting there like, what the ain't no way he's gonna give him $150,000 with no skill level, with no camp. He was gonna walk away from the WWE where he was making $150,000 base before his bonuses and all his other, you know, incentives kicked in. And he was going to walk away to go do mixed martial arts in the burgeoning days of mixed martial arts. Not even. And here's the thing. Here's the fucked up thing. So many of these guys who are doing mixed martial arts at the same time that The Rock is talking about ended up doing pro wrestling to make a living. So many of them. Don Fry, all right, Shamrock, Severn, Paul Varlins. There was a bunch of other guys. Tank Abbott would come in 1999. There's a bunch of people. And in Japan, there was even more of them because Antonio Inoki had bred that idea that there should be, that wrestling should be like the ultimate martial art or some nonsense like that. He wanted to get wrestling matches to be as close as possible to shoots as possible. And then that bring you Shuto and what was it called? GWFI and a bunch of other shoot promotions, Pancrase. And they were still doing works. They were still doing works. Pancrase had works in it. Even some of the Pride fights were worked. So I don't. No. No. Ain't nobody believe in The Rock, man. Get the hell out of here. Get out of here. Those guys couldn't even make any fucking money in the mixed martial arts. They had decades of experience. Guys had won Dan Severn was a super fight champion in UFC. He still had to go do pro wrestling to make a living. If he can make $150,000 in Pride, he never would have come to WWE. It's just not logical. It's not logical. Shamrock was a super fight champion. If he can make money in UFC, he never would have came to WWE. Well, that was before Pride existed, of course. Pride didn't exist for. Plus, Shamrock was also a pro wrestler before he got into mixed martial arts. But there was a couple of guys who, especially in Japan, would not have been going into pro wrestling if shoot fighting paid enough. You could just forget it. I don't understand why he wants everybody to believe that or why he felt the need to tell that story. Get out of here, Rock. We don't believe you. You need more people. All right. That's why I say Shamrock himself is probably going to have to pop up somewhere and certify this story. Because I'm pretty sure if guys making $500,000, and Shamrock was a big star in Japan at the time. He was a huge star because of Pancrase. He was a big star in Japan at the time. If he could have got out of that contract and gone and done some shoot fighting, like you're talking about Ken Shamrock, who, if I remember correctly, because I just read the book, part of the reason why he went into pro wrestling was because he had gotten into some tax trouble, and he became basically like Joe Louis. He would fight because he was trying to get out of tax trouble. This led him to taking a lot of complete and total unnecessary losses in his career, especially in the later years when mixed martial arts was really hitting its peak, and Shamrock was basically just getting beat up by Tito Ortiz or getting beat up by Kimbo Slice or whatever. He was already washed, but he needed the money. If he could make that kind of money in Pride, he would have done it. Easy. And you're talking about a guy who was a UFC super fight champion who had pushed Royce Gracie, to a draw in the second UFC show ever. A guy who was still a huge TV draw when he fought Kimbo Slice and when he fought Rich Franklin on TV. Huge television draw, big star in mixed martial arts. He probably would not have been able to go to Pride and make that money. So I know The Rock wasn't going to be able to. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this bullshit. And maybe The Rock should run for president. Maybe he should run for president. He lies like a motherfucker running for president, I can tell you that much. Jeez Christ. Is this necessary, though? It don't make sense, dog. All right, y'all ready to do full gear predictions? I know there's got to be something else that I get to talk about. This is the pre-Dana UFC for sure. Dana White was not involved with US. I think it was owned by SEG at the time. Let's see. Let's do the Full Gear predictions. Lying. I just can't believe you lied like this, bro. It's like something happened and all of a sudden The Rock just came out of nowhere and just started lying all the time. I'm like, oh my God, bro. Rock or Cody for president? Who you vote? Could you imagine that debate stage? My God. Oh my God. Look, the thing is, Cody is disingenuous. A lot of his emotions are fake. His teeth are fake. At least The Rock probably has his real teeth. At least I think so. They're both pretty adept liars. But I think Cody Rhodes is a bigger liar. I think he's a bigger liar than The Rock. I think when all is said and done, Cody's going to go down to one of the biggest liars of all time. One of the most disingenuous sons of bitches of all time. It's bound to be. Because I don't believe nothing that Cody says. He literally one of the largest motherfuckers on television currently. You know? That's why I'm surprised that he's such over as a babyface that people can't see through him. You know, I don't know. Voting for Eddie Kingston is like voting for the rats in the sewer. He gonna vote the garbage man, mayor in New York. You know, what the hell? Oh my God, Cody's starting to lose steam. I don't know, man. I think that they de-emphasized him, and they're going to turn that eventually because he's about to feud with Drew McIntyre, and after Drew McIntyre is done with Jey Uso, so maybe it's gonna be a little different. Let's get into Hogan versus Cody, a lying match. Well, look, Hulk Hogan is the undisputed world heavyweight champion of lying motherfuckers. All right. Hulk Hogan is a lying mother. Hulk Hogan once said that he wrestled in Japan and the United States in the same day. He literally said that. And people just let it go because he's Hulk Hogan. So they just let it go. They just let it ride. It's like, fam, that's not true. It's not possible, bro. It's not possible. They did. Hulk Hogan was going to be in Metallica. Oh my God, it was ridiculous stuff. Some real ridiculous lies from the Hulkster. I think he's the undisputed king of lying. Okay, let's get into this Full Gear predictions. I don't want to keep you guys for a long time. There is, oh my word, there's 9 matches on this show. Oh my God. I had no idea there were so many. I thought they were going to add matches over the next couple of days. Oh my goodness. Let's get started. Match 1. I think this is a dark match or a pre-show match. MJF and To Be Determined versus Austin and Colton the Guns for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. Here's the thing. They're saying to be announced or to be determined as if to say that there will be a partner for MJF. And I think there has to be. And I think the storyline of it being Samoa Joe is the only way for it to go. More than likely, Adam Cole is going to tell MJF, hey, if we're really friends, if you really intend to defend our championships and keep our legacy alive, it's better than you, baby. Accept Samoa Joe's help. Accept his friendship. Use him to keep our championships, to keep your word. Because that's really what this thing is about for MJF. He want to keep his word and defend the championships that him and Adam Cole won. And Samoa Joe can help him do that. So I'm guessing it's going to be Samoa Joe. And they're going to beat Austin and Colton Gunn. If MJF wrestles this match by himself and beats the Guns, they should just leave. Because the Guns are actually charismatic and they actually have talent. I think only one of them is really good at cutting a promo. The other one is like just animated, but that's better than most people, especially most young guys in AEW. Most young guys in AEW aren't even animated. I like the Guns because at least they have energy. Match 2, AEW Women's World Title, Hikaru Shida versus Timeless Toni Storm. It's too soon for Toni to win the title back, but she's going to win the title here. I don't see any reason for Hikaru Shida to beat her. I'm mostly looking forward to this match being in black and white, and also maybe for Mariah May to interfere, and they're finally going to decide whether Toni Storm's a heel or a babyface, because they've been treating her like a babyface for a long time, letting her do her thing, and she's feeding people mandarins out of her booty, out of her underwear. I should say out of her booty. Like, she's not plucking mandarins out of her booty. But it seems like they're tossing and turning between babyface and heel, and they're finally going to go with she's a heel, and Mariah May is going to help her. And that seems to be where we're going here. And so, like I said before, Mariah May is going to end up being Toni Storm's Reba. So she's going to help her and then be her assistant. And I know that the movie that they're supposed to be basing this off of, the AEW fans are now become super fans of, is this movie called All About Eve, which is a 1950s movie. I saw some guy giving a rundown of that movie and basically say this is what the storyline is going to be. It's not quite Trish Stratus and Mickey James. It's not quite the same, but it's similar in so much as, you know, the new young ingenue is going to befriend the older lady in order to use her and then usurp her as, you know, being the it girl of Broadway or whatever. And that seems like that's going to be the story here, is that Mariah May is going to partner up with Toni Storm, and then she's going to end up outshining Toni. Toni's going to go crazy, and she's going to end up stealing her spot. Oh yeah, Mickey James leaving Impact. That's a really, especially at this point in time. We'll talk about that in a second. So I'm going to go with Timeless Toni Storm as your women's champion for obvious reasons. Hikaru Shida probably shouldn't even be champion right now. It would be a misstep for Toni Storm to lose. It would be a huge misstep. Match 3. Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland versus Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. All right. Ric Flair is noted going to be in the corner of Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam. I don't know why that would be. Why would the faces have the numeric advantage? Shouldn't Christian, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne have the numeric advantage? Is Ric Flair going to turn on Sting again? Are we going to end Sting's career with Ric Flair turning on him one last time? What event was that where he turned on Sting after the big tag? They did a tag team match and Sting threatened him. He said, "If you turn on me, Rick, I'm going to leave you for dead." And the first thing Ric Flair did is fucking turn on him. What match? That would be a good way to end Sting's career, is for Ric Flair to stab him in the back again. But they're not going to do that. Sting is going to win this match. Nick Wayne is going to get pinned. Edge and Christian are probably going to tussle with one another, but they're not going to give too much away. Sting's going to get the win over the Kid, and we're going to keep Sting's career-ending tour going. It ought to be strong. Got to go with Flair turning on Sting for the 1 billionth time because Sting is stupid, right? It's got to happen, bro. Either it's going to happen on this show or it's going to happen later. But they're going to do it just for the pop. Maybe it'd be sweet if it's Flair who, upon turning on Sting, the guy who Sting ends up having his last match with is somebody of Ric Flair's choosing, like Ric Flair's proxy. So maybe like Andrade El Idolo. Look at me. So I'm going to go with Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland. Edge. Government name Edge. That's how we know him. Match 4, Quattro. Orange Cassidy versus Jon Moxley for the AEW International Championship. I am why? I don't know. Look, I guess I don't care about this. Like I really don't care about this. I really don't care. Look, if Moxley wins, then it just tells me that Moxley was going to be the champion throughout this entire situation, and then Orange Cassidy only got it back because Moxley got hurt. But if Moxley loses, what is that supposed to do for Orange Cassidy? That's what I want to know. My thing is like, what's the end game for Orange Cassidy? Is being world champion in the cards for Orange Cassidy? Because if so, then perhaps she should beat Moxley. But if it's not, then let Moxley beat him, and then you do something else with him. You know? But what is the plan for this international championship? There has to be a goal in mind. But it seems like they just keep creating championships because they want to have somebody have a long run with the title. So they create something new. Like Christian's been, had the TNT title locked up all this time, even though technically he wasn't the champion. He had this title locked up for like 6 months now. Himself has been the champion for about 2 or 3 of those months. And then I think before that was Luchasaurus. So he's got the title all locked up. So the only belt you can really move is the world title, or you can of course move the trios or the tag team belts. But this is the only singles title that can really move for the men. The question is, what's your goal for it? What is your plan for this thing? If the plan is just for it to be the Orange Cassidy Invitational title, then by all means have Orange Cassidy win. By all means. I don't know. Like, I don't think we win. People who are kind of barely fans of AEW, I don't see how we win out of this situation. The only way we win is they both give each other concussions and they both lose. Then we all win at that point. Darren Miles does not want Orange Cassidy as world champion. Look, I'm surprised they haven't done it already. And I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming. Tony Khan is a huge fan. Of course he's coming. Of course it's going to happen. We're going to talk about the debut again in a second. Crossface, right? Match 5. Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland in a Texas death match. Well, Hangman can't lose because Swerve broke into his house and threatened his child. He can't lose. So, next. Sorry. AJ3 says Kota Ibushi should be added to the international division. Do they have an international division? Because if it's a division, then, maybe more guys should be in it. There's a lot of guys who probably should be in it that currently are not. And I don't know why. Darren Miles says guys like Orange Cassidy are world champion, but Powerhouse Hobbs aren't. It's not even a world championship. They can't even be singles champions. Hook has had a title for the greater part of 2 years. Hobbs has had a title for like a month, if that, and lost it. Scorpio Sky had one. TN Pyro thinks they're going to be a third match between Moxley and Orange Cassidy. I think so, too. They're going to do some kind of gimmick match that's going to feature like a lot of blood and shit, too. It's probably going to be some kind of death match or whatever. Probably at the Wrestle Dream show or the World's... Not the Wrestle Dream, I'm sorry, the World's End show. Wouldn't be surprised at all. But like I said, Powerhouse Hobbs doesn't get to be champion for longer than a month. But Orange Cassidy, stranglehold on the title, for Christ's sake. All right. Match 6. Golden Jets, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho versus Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. If the Golden Jets win, they will get the Young Bucks World Tag Team Championship shot. But if the Young Bucks win, the Golden Jets must disband as a tag team. Oh my word. To see that the Young Bucks have gone down so low, they've gone so low that this is what they need to do to get on the card. Humorous. Huge pop. Because nobody cares about these guys. Like, if they lose their tag team title shot, so what? If the Golden Jets break up as a tag team, so what? Now, I'm looking at this and saying maybe Jericho and Omega could lose. It seems that if they beat the Don Callis family, that could be it for the Golden Jets anyway. Like, they have no other reason to be a tag team. I didn't skip Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. I said that there's no way Hangman can lose. This guy invaded his house. There's no way he's going to lose. What more is there? Like, when you have a baby face and the guy's house got broken into, there's no way he's going to lose. You know, you're an idiot if you book a storyline where your baby face gets humiliated and his child is brought into the storyline. He still manages to lose. They did that to The Miz because it's The Miz. All right? They're not going to do that shit to Hangman Page. He's going to win this match. There's no way Hangman's going to lose. Anyway, back to what I was saying, and I forgot what I was saying. If Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho are only working together to defeat Don Callis, and now they've done that, then what reason do they have to continue as a tag team? I don't know. What reason do they have to continue as a tag team? I don't know. I'm okay with the Young Bucks losing because I want to see what the reaction is going to be. But if it's not going to lead to the Young Bucks completely changing everything about themselves and reinventing who the Young Bucks are, changing their name, their theme song, all the stupid posing, just ending it all, then it's not going to be worth doing. If they're going to continue being the Young Bucks, then I don't care. You know, I won't care anyway, but I want to see them do something different. And they need a catalyst. And I think getting beat by a team that they don't think is even a real tag team would be a good catalyst to change their characters. Now, Omega and Jericho have no business being a tag team. I don't even understand where that came from. Where did the name even come from? What does it have to do with gold? What does it have to do with jets? I don't know. I would imagine that Jericho and Omega are going to win just so they can wrestle Ricky Starks and Big Bill, and it'd be a different kind of match. Like, who really wants to watch Big Bill and Ricky Starks versus the Young Bucks? I don't. It'd do wonders for Ricky Starks to wrestle Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho in singles matches, even though I think he's already done that with Jericho. But to wrestle them in tag team situations, that could be really fun. Big Bill doesn't really deserve it, but I don't know. Golden Lover Winnipeg Jets combined, they are from Winnipeg, if I remember correctly. Who are the Winnipeg Jets? Who the hell is that? I know Golden Lovers is Omega's tag team with Kota Ibushi, but I don't know what that got to do with Winnipeg. Just okay. Look, I'm doing too much. All right, I'm doing way too much. Match 7, triple threat match for the AEW Women's TBS Championship. Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart versus Sky Blue. Now, Chris Statlander is the conquering hero who came in. She beat Jade Cargill twice. Only person to beat Jade Cargill in her entire time on the roster. And she has done nothing with this championship. She's barely on TV. The Winnipeg Jets are a hockey team. Sorry, I don't know hockey. All All right. Sorry, I'm not a hockey guy. Anyway, she hasn't done anything with this title. There's been no real intrigue around this title at all. And that's Tony Khan's booking, clearly. You know, it's not like the girl is no good. She ain't great, but this is 99% Tony Khan booking, you know? Tony Khan booked the show for her to look like a fool. She just carries the belt around and wrestles random matches. There is a storyline between Sky Blue and Julia Hart. Now, could it be, and I'm just going to throw something out there, could it be that Julia Hart and Sky Blue work together to beat Chris Statlander? How about that? Wouldn't that be interesting? That Sky Blue teases that she's going to beat up on Julia Hart, but they both turn on Chris Statlander. And then maybe Sky Blue just lets Julia Hart beat Chris Statlander. And she basically gives Julia Hart the title. What about that? That would be heat, I think. Because a lot of people have expected the Sky Blue heel turn anyway. And we've already told the story of Sky Blue not liking Chris Statlander. Of course, they teased that she also doesn't like Julia Hart. But maybe that's a red herring. You know? Maybe it's a red herring that her and Julia Hart are going to fight. In reality, they're working together. And then they get into this match together. And instead of fighting each other, they decided to just jump Chris Statlander and put her on the ground. And that's it. And then Julia just wins the title. Why not? What good reason do we have to not do that? You know? Well, it won't be a great match. It'll be a great angle. I tell you that much. It'll get some heat. You know, neither one of these girls have any charisma. What's up, Julia? Julia has some charisma. You know, Sky Blue is just hot. And Chris Statlander is just big and technically proficient. She's a pretty girl, too, when she's not wearing silly makeup. I don't really care to see a match between these people because I'm not sure that the match is going to be worth anything. But if they do something in which Julia Hart and Sky Blue work together to beat up Chris Statlander, that could at least be interesting. And then as the babyface, Chris Statlander can have something to overcome. You know, she got jumped by these two smaller women, and now she's going to be in pursuit of them. That could be fun. That could be not too bad. Crossface Ray says, is it me or is Julia Hart a ripoff Alexa Bliss? Well, it's clear they were inspired by the Alexa Bliss idea with the Julia Hart thing. I'm not gonna, beat them over the head with it though, because people get inspired when they see interesting things, and the Alexa Bliss stuff was interesting. The only problem is they haven't gone that route with her. They insist on making her a wrestler instead of making her a personality. Maybe Julia Hart can't talk. Maybe she's not that good at cutting promos. But she looks the part. She looks very creepy, and she has some of the good mannerisms down. But maybe she can't talk worth a damn. Maybe she has no creepy voice. Maybe they have no ideas. I don't know. But it's clear that there was some inspiration there. But I'm not gonna, go too far with it. I'm not gonna call it a ripoff, but it's clear there was some inspiration. Match 8. Ricky Starks and Big Bill versus La Facción Ingobernable, Rush and Dralistico versus FTR versus the Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black and Brody King, for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Oh, Starks and Bill haven't been champions very long. I don't like them as a team because I don't really like Big Bill. If I had my druthers, I probably would put the belts on Kings of the Black Throne. Or I would put it on LFI just because these are better tag teams. But also, if I was the booker, Ricky Starks wouldn't be in a tag team anyway, unless he was in a tag team with somebody who has some goddamn charisma. You know, I know they just wanted to have they wanted them to have a heater and all that kind of stuff, but they could have picked somebody better than Big Bill, man. I mean, Powerhouse Hobbs is right there. You know, whatever. There's a bunch of other guys on the roster who could have been big dudes who you could have put with Ricky Starks. But I would imagine Ricky Starks and Big Bill are going to win because they haven't been champions that long. So I'm going to go with Big Bill, and Dralistico being in this match just tells me he's there to take a pinfall. You know, that's a dead giveaway right there. Dralistico is there to get pinned. Koshan Ard is a quick prediction for a Hook versus Wheeler Yuta if it's on the pre-show for Full Gear. Well, I would imagine they're going to add it to the card. And I'm going to go with Hook. Wheeler Yuta, nobody cares about him, man. Like, he of the freshman double XL that they cover, I think he's probably like the guy with the least amount of talent. You know? No charisma, no presence, no aura, no look, no swag, no skill. You can't talk. You know, like, if you look up and down that joint, even if you add some guys that weren't in it, like Action Andretti, you know, a couple of other guys, at the very least, some of them have a look. Some of them are in great shape. Athletic guys, well-built dudes. You could buy them in a wrestling context. You know? Well, Kyle Fletcher sucks, too. Kyle Fletcher sucks. He sucks ass. Again, nobody, no look, no aura. He's terrible. Well, Yuta, oh my God, he's short. Kyle Fletcher is at least tall. Like he's got an Ivy League haircut, but at least he's tall. All right, he can fill out. You make him hit the gym, he'll at least be a taller guy. Yuta, there's nothing you can do with the guy. He looks indie as hell. Absolutely worthless. Wheeler Yuta should go sell potato chips or something. He should go sell popcorn. All right? He looks like shit. He sounds like shit. He's never done anything anybody has to remember. He's the worst. All right? The worst. And I'm just saying, because we've seen enough of him now where I can say, Wheeler Yuta, I'm comfortable saying Wheeler Yuta needs to go away. All right? Hook is the guy that you would think of, like all the young guys, right up there with MJF, he would have some of the best potential. He's not a huge kid, but he's not super skinny either. He's skinny, but he's filling in, you know. He has a chest. It hasn't developed yet, but you can tell he's a kid who works out. He's got a little bit of a pretty boy thing going. Not so sure about his promo, but you can do the stoic bad boy thing. They've been doing that for a little while. His in-ring stuff looks smooth and it's kind of exciting. It's a little plain. You know, you could add a little bit more to it, a little flash, but they want to do a little bit more of an underground thing for me. But Hook should be up there with like MJF. In terms of how over he was, there's no reason Hook shouldn't be up there with MJF outside of really, really bad booking. But the amount of looks that we're doing with Wheeler Yuta is a disaster, bro. He sucks so bad. He's supposed to be the understudy of the Blackpool Combat Club. That's the thing that don't make any sense. Hook is literally right there. He's Taz's son. You know? The kid, the only thing is Hook is a little too skinny. All right? That's pretty much it. But get him in the gym, he'll fill out, he'll be fine. He has an aura about him. He carries himself, pretty good. I don't know why he eats potato chips all the time. I don't know about that. But there's something about him that's interesting. Wheeler Yuta, nah, man. He's a bump machine. He's there to take bumps. That's it. This is dumb. What's more likely, a Cody heel turn or a Shield reunion? Well, obviously a Cody heel turn. I think this time next year, Cody will probably be a heel. I think he's going to win the title and probably turn heel not too long after that. I don't see him being Hulk Hogan, being, you know, everybody's favorite baby face forever and ever. I don't think that's going to work. I think as soon as he wins the title, people are going to start turning on him, and he's going to turn heel. But yeah, Kyle Fletcher and Wheeler Yuta, man, they're terrible. They're terrible. Vigilante Williamson says Kyle Fletcher and Wheeler Yuta are just two guys who graduated from some wrestling school somewhere completely forgettable. I swear to Jesus, man, you could literally swap them out for any two guys and probably improve your product quite a bit. You know, you could probably improve your. Here's the thing, like Coach Sean Hart noticed this too. You probably could have changed the name of the group by now, or just pulled the KFC and started calling it the BCC, and everybody would have known what it stood for. But without William Regal being there, why are we still calling it the Blackpool Combat Club? You know, I don't know. Action Andretti sounds like Saturday morning cartoons. Oh no, Kyle O'Reilly at least is entertaining when it comes to selling. Like, he can sell. Kyle Fletcher, I'm not even sure if he's good at that. The Beatdown Clan. Oh, that's so generic. I hated that name so much for these guys, man. I felt bad for them. They was running around calling themselves the Beatdown Clan. I was like, oh my God. TNA has run out of ideas. All right, the main event of the evening, MJF versus Jay Whitehall for the AEW World Championship. They've been pushing Jay White for 3 months. The only thing he's really done in 3 months is say a lot. He's cut a lot of promos. He said a whole lot of nothing in these promos. He talks slick, but he doesn't really have any content, even though he does attack the mic with some swagger. He just doesn't have anything to say. You know? He repeats himself a lot in terms of being the catalyst and, you know, it's his era, all this kind of stuff. He needs a character. He needs a gimmick. He needs to have something to talk about, you know? Poor fucking guy is actually decent on the mic. He needs help, you know? He needs something to say. Got nothing to say. I say all that to say this. He's not winning this title. All right? I was a big booster for Jay White to go to WWE. And the reason why is because I was hoping that if he got out of Japan and got away from the Bullet Club, he would actually find more of himself, you know, or he could create something different. If he got out of Japan and got away from the Bullet Club, instead he signed with AEW, and he's even more in the Japanese bag than ever before. Now they're the only gimmick is they running around with a cardboard cutout of Jay White. He's hanging around with Juice Robinson. Jesus. How could you be anything but mid hanging around with Juice Robinson? I feel so bad. Look, Jay White is legitimately very talented. Again, he's got some swag. He's got some personality. He can actually talk. He just doesn't have anything to say. You know, if he had content to his promos and you add some confidence to them, he would actually be a good talker. MJF's going to steamroll this kid, man. Very unfortunate, but why move the belt now? There's no reason to move the belt now. And plus, they're going to book in the show with MJF, so MJF is going to win. Retain the tag team titles with Samoa Joe's help. Maybe Samoa Joe helps him beat the Bullet Club at the end, and then Joe ends up fighting MJF for the title on TV or something like that. So that's the way I see it. There's no way Jay White can win. I'm just looking at this thing. I don't get it, bro. Yeah. Darren Gordon-Hill says, I remember, but I've seen him in TNA and AEW and wonder what the big deal was. I see potential in Jay White, you know? Like, in New Japan, he was pushed so soon, he didn't get a chance to develop. Like, he got pushed immediately. Soon as Kenny Omega left, they started pushing Will Ospreay and Jay White almost immediately. Jay White got to the top so fast. He never developed a real personality or anything. It was just he could work. And he was a dojo boy. That was it. But there was enough there that if they'd have took the time to build off of it, I think it would have been much, much better. But now he's still very, I don't think he's 30 yet. Jay White's like 28, 29 years old or something like that. He's very young. But they haven't forced him to add anything to his character in forever. Well, he probably is 30 now. He probably might be early 30s. But they haven't forced him to do anything yet, to try anything different yet. They still letting him walk around with that Bullet Club blankie. That's not going to work for me, dog. And it's boring. Like, there's too many Bullet Club dudes running around already. You know? There's just Bullet Club guys everywhere. You can get out of here with that. If Dave Meltzer gives you praise, that's already a strike against Jay White. No. I'm not going to say that because sometimes Meltzer likes somebody and they actually are good. I think his excessive love for guys like Will Ospreay is a strike, though. I'll probably never get into Will Ospreay because of how much Meltzer gives everything he does 5 stars. I'm like, that's not realistic. Darren Gordon says he has a good voice, but says nothing. Yeah. There's a lot to like about Jay White. He's just not developing any of it. You know? He knows he has natural instincts. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't look like shit. He's actually in shape. It's just, it ain't clicking, you know? And it's got to be because he's hanging around with the people he's hanging around with. So MJF's going to win. So let's talk about this. Let's go back to the mask, the devil mask, and who's going to be the signee. So since I did the review 2 days ago, Mickie James has, said she was leaving Impact. She's taking a break from Impact. That was were the exact words. She's taking a break. So she's no longer on the roster. Now everybody is saying she's going to be the big signing. It is going to be Mickie James. I'm okay with that, but we could have done that for TV. Like for me, like 90% of all of this crap, you could do it on TV. The only reason you would do a signing on pay-per-view is if you have a plan. Jay White is 31 years old. Okay, yeah, I knew he was young right then. I knew he had to be older than 27 because when I was talking, I was remember when he was IWGP World Champion. This was several years ago, and I was like, he's like 27 then, so he can't be 27 now. So I figured he was in his early 30s by now. In any event, back to what I was saying. If you're going to sign somebody on pay-per-view, it needs to be a bigger name. Look, I like Mickie James. I think she's beautiful. She's gorgeous. Jesus. But she's somebody you bring out on Dynamite, to a big pop, and she cuts a little bit of a promo in the ring. But I don't think that the women's division in AEW befits Mickie James and will operate the way that she wants it to. Like, you're looking at Mickie James, who's like 40 years old now. She's like in her early 40s or something like that now. She has tremendous amount of authority and stroke and impact with the women's division, and working with people like Gail Kim. Why would she give all that up to go work in AEW where she might get one match a week? Might. Nobody that they've brought in has changed the booking of the women's division in AEW. None of them have. The only person, matter of fact, none of them, because I'm trying to think of it, like the point of bringing Paige in, government name, Saraya, was that they were hoping to change the women's division. They were hoping to energize that women's division. But Saraya she's built like a Jenga board. It's not going to work. All right. So that fell through. They thought Ruby Soho before that was going to fix things. That fell through. They thought Athena was going to be the one who was going to fix things. That fell through. You're asking poor Mickie James a lot to come into AEW where they do not value women's wrestling and then say, here, we're going to ask you to fix this. All right? For starters, she should only come in if she has some kind of creative control. All right? Otherwise, she shouldn't even bother. Because they said before that there's various other women working backstage, like, Madison Rain and Sarah Stock and all them. You can't even tell that there's women backstage in AEW. I think from looking at the on-screen product of AEW, if he gives if he gives Mickie James the opportunity to book the women and actually give her a little bit of time, she may be able to change things. But I don't see that happening. I just don't see it happening. The only other person who can make any type of splash in that women's division is Sasha Banks. That's it. And if you bring her in, she's going to come with a hefty price tag in which you're going to want her on TV all the time. In which case, that's going to force you to build up the division. Or at least to make sure she's on TV every week. But you're talking about somebody whose attitude is a Jenga board. Maybe physically she's not even that great because she's always injured. Mentally, she's shot to shit, so she's not doing that well either. You're looking at a huge liability. Look, Sasha Banks is a great talent, beautiful girl, passion for the business, unparalleled. But she's a diva, and she's always hurt. And then she's always having breakdowns. So you got to take the bitter with the sweet. If Mickie James is too old for this shit, and Sasha Banks is too irritable for it, they don't take women's wrestling in AEW seriously. I don't see why either one of them would sign a contract. Long term. Short term, a match here and there, yeah. But like, I'm going to be on TV every single week to build your division, I don't see that happening. I just don't see it happening. I don't see Tony Khan putting that amount of investment in the women's division. So I'm almost certain that the big signing is going to be a man. All right. Again, here's another thing. Brandy Rose worked there. She was supposed to be the leader of the women's division. And they brought in Awesome Kong along with her for the PR because, Awesome Kong was one of the people who was like, I was one of the cornerstones of the Knockouts division. We did women's wrestling right and all this kind of stuff. She was gone by the end of the second year. I think she was gone by the end of the first year. And now Brandy doesn't work there anymore either. Saraya was supposed to change things. She's gone. Well, she's not gone. She's on Rampage, apparently. She was world champion like 4 weeks ago. Now she's on Rampage. Whatever. I just don't see Tony Khan being willing to make that kind of investment in his roster, in his women's division. I just don't see it. It would be nice. I've been saying that Mercedes should pop up for a long time now. If she's not going to go back to WWE, which she might, because Triple H is taking control, and Lord knows that man ain't wrapped around her fingers. God, did you see this? Like that whole thing with her getting flowers after a match in NXT. I was like, oh my God. I knew he was making a mess right there. They had a really good match on NXT. I think there was that go home match or something like that. They were both about to get called. Well, at least Sasha Banks was about to get called up. They started bringing them flowers and all this shit. I'm like, what is Triple H doing? What is this man doing? He made a monster down there, man. Shit. No wonder she was bumping heads with Vince all the time. But I think with Triple H being in control, it's more likely Sasha Banks will go back. But if she were to go to AEW, she's going to be a pricey asset. But he's got nobody to put her against. He's devalued Britt Baker. Tony Storm does half comedy. Hikaru Shida, 3-time world champion, but nobody really cares that much about her, and she's only around part-time. None of the other Japanese girls matter. Mariah May's too new. Ruby Soho's a nobody. Paige is a nobody. There really is no belief that it's going to be a woman. But if it's going to be a woman, I would say it's more likely to be Mickey than Sasha. Just for the bag. But something tells me Mickey might be going back to WWE too, because her husband works there now. So who knows? And Mark Carrano got fired, so might be better off for her now. So on the men's side, we haven't changed that much. Sami Callihan's still out there. It could be somebody that's already on the roster. I'm mixing the devil and the signing thing. I'm sorry. If it's Sami Callihan, somebody needs to tie Tony Khan up and beat him like a piñata until quarters or Jolly Ranchers falls out of his pockets. If he signs Sami Callihan on pay-per-view, he needs to be tied upside down until Tootsie Rolls fly out of his pockets. All right? I'm just talking beat with sticks, switches. Handle your business now. It better not be Sami Callihan. It's exactly what they deserve. But I don't think so. Somebody have said that maybe it's going to be Chris Hero, that he does some stuff backstage in AEW. Chris Hero is not even on my list of people that I would even consider doing this for. You bring in Chris Hero on a Dynamite or something like that. You don't build no pay-per-view around it. You don't do that. All right? You don't do that. If you're gonna build a pay-per-view around somebody, it needs to be somebody who can at least add something to your product. And so I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of maybe late 30s, early 40s-year-old male wrestler. If it could be Dolph Ziggler, I would say Dolph Ziggler. Maybe he pulled some strings and got out of his 90-day non-compete early. Who knows? But I don't see it being a woman, even though they do need women. They do need women. But I don't know. I would hope it would be somebody who has a future and somebody they can use. But more than that, they need to change how they do business. Like Edge literally has been in AEW 1 month. and he already feels like a normal guy on the roster. Now, speaking of that, Edge did do an interview with the New York Post. I couldn't find the actual article, but I did find some quotes that he supposedly had from that article. I'm gonna read those in a second. You know, I want to do that after this. AJ3 says Tony is too smart for that, and besides, he probably look at Sami Callihan as a bum, never drew a dime anywhere. He's friends with Jon Moxley. That's all you need to know. He's friends with Jon Moxley, and he's been friends with Jon Moxley for a long time. Sami Callihan is likely going to get that AEW job. Now, if he's going to be the guy that they signed to a contract, maybe not. Maybe he's not going to be that featured guy. But I think you're not too far away from seeing Sami Callihan, because Moxley's going to need a tag team partner if he's not going to win that international belt. And him teaming up with Yuta is foolish. Do I think Impact books their women's? Here's the thing about Impact's women's division. You have to put women's in quotation when it comes to Impact. All right? For obvious reasons. There's at least two of them there that are functionally not women. All right? I mean, it is what it is. I didn't make the rules. Okay? I didn't make the rules. But there's at least two of them. And how do you have two in the same place? One, maybe. But if you got two or more, you're just attracting them at that point, bro. You know? Like you're just attracting them at that point, fam. But I'm joking, of course. But I'm serious too at the same time. You have to put women's in scare quotes for Impact, because there's at least two of them that are functionally male. But I think they care more about the women's wrestling than WWE and AEW does. They look at it, and there probably should be three, because we're talking about Jordan Grace here, who probably has enough horse meat in her to make. Let's not go there. Anyway, there is they care more about their women's division than WWE and AEW does. They see it as a cornerstone of their company. WWE doesn't really look at it that way. You know, and AEW certainly doesn't. I think if AEW could get away with having no women on the show, they probably would do that. I think Triple H would have women on the show even if you didn't force him to. But I think Tony Khan, if he could get away with no women, he probably would do that. And I think he has his own built-in excuse for the women don't draw, you know? But he doesn't understand that storylines was what draws, you know? Storylines draw. No, the women alone don't draw. The men alone don't draw. Tag teams alone don't draw. What draws is the story. What draws is getting people invested in something. You know, Impact's whole thing is their women's division and the X division. Like Darren Gordon-Hill is saying, that's how they define themselves as being different from WWE. They always had a weak world title division. It's always weak. But their women's division and the X division were the strong suits, the tag team division too, to a degree, because WWE doesn't care about tag teams either. AEW wants to have the quote-unquote best wrestling, but they don't want to invest in any of the storyline elements. You know? They don't want to invest in any of that stuff. Ninja Old School, Austin Aries, look, if he was going to sign Austin Aries, he would have done it 2 or 3 years ago. If he was going to sign a guy like Low Key, he would have done it 2 or 3 years ago. There's no reason for you to sign Austin Aries today and then put it on pay-per-view that you couldn't have done 2 or 3 years ago. All right? So, and then his fan base is actually going to have a meltdown if it's Austin Aries. I could tell you this right now. It would be fun just to see that reaction. But if it's Austin Aries, they're going to have a meltdown, because Austin Aries went on that long tirade about masks and vaccines and eating vegan and all this kind of stuff. Bro, if it's Austin Aries, ooh, I would die laughing. We definitely gonna have smart tears if it's Austin Aries. All right. I don't know who it could possibly be. It's obviously somebody who's been around for a while, but Tony Khan does not really look at young talent and promote young talent as a big deal. You know? I don't know. Because I guess if you wanted to say like it could be any talent, perhaps, you know. Maybe he did something, maybe he did the unthinkable and he bought Alexander Hammerstone out of his contract. Maybe he went up to Court Bauer and says, I'll give you $50,000 for Alexander Hammerstone. I'll buy his contract from you. Maybe. What do you think the chances are? What do you think the chances are? I don't think the chances are very good. I don't think the chances are very good at all. But I guess it's worth a shot. But I don't know. I'm going to stick with it being somebody who's a little bit older, who reached a certain level but didn't get too far. And somebody that the AEW fan base would be interested in and would be super excited for. But that other wrestling fans are going to look at it and be like, that's it? Who cares about that guy? You know, and I'm trying to think if there's even somebody like that in the world right now. And the only option I can come up with is like Sami Callihan, where most wrestling fans would know who he is, but people will look at it and be like, who the hell cares about this fucking guy? Ain't nobody cares about Sami Callihan. Nobody likes him. It ain't going to be like some kind of huge Hall of Fame level guy. There aren't any of those out there outside of maybe Dolph, if that's your guy, you know? But I don't know who Tony Khan is a fan of. Remember, he brought in Sabu, the fan base threw a fit, and then he ended up basically having to write Sabu out of the match because his fan base had a fit because he he brought in Sabu. So I don't know. I don't know who it could be. I could sit here all day and look at wrestlers and say, hey, wouldn't it be nice if it was Kurt Angle? Wouldn't it be nice if it was, you know, somebody like that? And like maybe. But why would any of those guys go to AEW? Angle is way too old. He's always talking about how he can't walk or he can barely sleep because he got so many injuries, and I don't think he's going to come back to start working matches in AEW. So I don't think so. I'm going to stick with it being somebody like Mystico. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of it as being an international star. Maybe it's going to be a guy from Japan that there's a couple of Japanese wrestlers that were free agents. They left like Noah or DDT or something like that. And, you know, maybe they'll be brought over. I know that some people are saying maybe Julia, the young lady who was in New Japan, or who she was in Stardom rather, and supposedly WWE was trying to get a hold of her. It could be her, but I don't see how she's going to be any different than Shida or any of the other Japanese girl they brought in. So I don't know. I don't really see that as being a huge deal. Have I ever checked out a video called 99 Problems in AEW by this YouTube channel called Age of Wrestling? It's a very interesting video. I've never heard of it. It never popped up on my my suggestions. Maybe I'll go look at it. How long is it? Because if it's like 40 minutes or something like that, I'll just wait till tomorrow. I'll wait till some downtime in my office and start playing it. I did that today with some interviews. I put them on while I'm in the office doing paperwork. So the Devil Mask. The Devil Mask. I'm thinking it's 13 seconds and 39 minutes. I guess you mean 39 minutes and 13 seconds. I'll watch it tomorrow. Hopefully I'll remember it. Put it in the Discord. The Devil Mask, I like the idea of it being Pac. I like it being Malachi Black, even though he was in that stupid tag team match. It could be Roderick Strong. It being Roderick Strong would be interesting. I don't know. Like, am I supposed to take Roderick Strong seriously immediately after he takes his mask off? Is what my thing, because he's been doing the wheelchair stuff for a while now and being silly. And something tells me that this mask thing is probably going to be a heel turn rather than a heel changing his alignment from being a comedic heel to being a serious, deadly heel. I don't know. Could it be Kyle O'Reilly? Why would it be Kyle O'Reilly? Well, Kyle O'Reilly, well, starters, can Kyle O'Reilly even wrestle? Is he still alive? So I know he had neck surgery. He's been gone for a long time. I don't know if he would be the guy, you know? So, I don't know. The Devil Mask thing is not that interesting to me anyway. It's not my favorite whodunit because I don't think they're doing enough. But they actually have some really good red herrings there in terms of it could be Roddy in the Kingdom because it's a man in a group already. It could be Pac, even though there will be no good reason for it to be Pac outside of something they're going to create. I just like the idea of Pac being a top level main event guy. And I like the idea of Pac being back on TV because he's been gone for too long. Where is he? Did he get hurt in a match or something? Malachi Black, of course, is one of my forerunners for being a good one. Hopefully it's not somebody that they're trying to make who is I hope it's not like Sammy Guevara. All right? Because if it's like Sammy Guevara, this thing is dead. If it's Jack Perry, this thing is dead. You know? People are going to shit off the roof if it's Jack Perry. All right? And I'm not saying that in a way where it's going to be super entertaining either. I think if it's somebody like Jack Perry who is under that mask, there's going to be people who are going to scream bloody murder if it's Jack Perry. I'm telling you now, if it's Jack Perry, people are going to scream. And there's going to be a lot of laughter to be had if it's Jack Perry. You know? So, but by all means, it probably would make sense considering Jack Perry is the guy who, caused all this problem in AEW, who cost them their top star. Speaking of which, I think a lot of people have been trolling with the CM Punk stuff. I don't think that's actually going to happen. I don't think the CM Punk thing is going to work. The guy went on television and said that he feared for his life. Do you bring that guy back? And then what kind of locker room do you have if that guy comes back? What does it say about everybody who was celebrating when he was gone? Like, could you imagine that? All these guys like Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks camp, and CM Punk walks back through the doors. Oh shit! Are you serious? He's gonna be fighting everybody. It's gonna be like the prison scene of the Punisher in that joint, And I'm talking about the Punisher TV show. He's fighting everybody in that line, in that hallway. That's how CM Punk's going to be every fucking week. Punching out Matt Hardy and Jack Perry and Nick and Mac Jackson just to get to his hotel room. You know, just to take his boots off. Gonna fight through waves of PWG washouts. I don't know. But they're trying to use that stuff to get people watching this show. You know, and I don't know. Imagine throwing a party for this, you know, because you got rid of this guy and then he turns around and comes right back because your company did it so bad when he left. All right, let's get into some of these Edge quotes. So, Edge talks about him leaving WWE, and he's here's the setup. It says discussing the change in schedule. Edge Copeland noted that whilst he understood WWE's perspective of trying to make sure he remained an attraction, the reduced dates limited his ability to tell meaningful stories, and thus the move to AEW allowed him to take the reins of his own creative direction. Of course, Phoenix is hurt again. That's why Commander was his brother's partner yesterday. Phoenix is always hurt. Phoenix is always hurt. Pac is always hurt. Sammy Guevara is always hurt. Moxley is always hurt. Danielson is always hurt. Jesus Christ. Adam Cole's always hurt. Notice it's the same kind of it's people who do jumps all day. You know? People who do a lot of jumping. Those people are hurt all the time. Unfortunate. So Edge says, from their perspective, I see their perspective entirely. If we bring you out too much, then it's not really special anymore. I get that. So it was for limited dates. With that, though, you can't really get into a proper story. You can't really dive into what this thing could be. For me, looking at it, it's like I'm 49. I got a very, very limited time to capitalize on what I have left. Because 3 months off, that's 3 months where I could have done some stuff. And I know it sounds great on paper, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't a horrible place to be. But if I'm going to try to do this, man, I want to do it. I want to do and try to craft some stories and do what I can while I can. So limited time, yeah, because I'm far closer to the end of my career than I am at the beginning. But still think I got some good stories that I can tell and a whole new roster of people whom I've never touched before. I am not against what he just said. The problem is I actually agree with WWE's position. If you're a guy like Edge, why are you coming out every week? Like, I don't know. Why would you want to be on TV every week? Why would you want to take bumps every week? Roman is 39, and he's trying to get, he's working as little as possible. Edge is 49, and he's like, well, you got to do more. But then again, Edge was gone for 10 years. So maybe that's his thing is, you know, I had 10 years of my career stolen from me. You know, I would like to get those 10 years back to some degree, you know. I get that. But I think Edge being on TV every week has definitely harmed his AEW run. You know? I think it's done nothing but damage. He's too familiar already. It went from being, man, that's weird to see Edge in AEW to people not even paying attention that Edge was in AEW. You know? It's hard to say. It's very bizarre. But I got what, you know, at least he was understanding of their position. You know? What is going on? All right, so here's something else. We're going to close with this. So this is something that Mitch Colburn posted in the Discord. I just went back and got it because I was thinking of it as I mentioned Roman Reigns' name, and I was like, did somebody post some crazy shit about Roman Reigns? And yeah, here it is. So apparently he's in a Facebook group that talks about WWE at PWP Nation. And this is the post. Ex-WWE star Stevie Richards claims superstars get negatively affected after losing to Roman Reigns. He even claimed that anyone who feuds with Roman will end up getting their careers killed, noting that he couldn't feud with Reigns either. He would then cite LA Knight and Cody Rhodes' current plights as examples. He stated, quote, Stone Cold Steve Austin was probably the most over character outside of The Rock during that time and probably in the history of the company. So if Austin jobs to Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, are you saying that Austin is as over as he would be if he had won? That's a general consensus. You're talking about a blanket one-to-one analogy to LA Knight or Cody or anybody else. You're getting to the point that they all fall short. And here's your consolation prize. So you're less over after that. Like, I wouldn't want an angle with Roman Reigns right now because it would kill my career. Now, what he's talking about is getting guys to a certain peak and then they lose. Basically what happened to Lex Luger at SummerSlam 93. Even though he didn't lose that match, he won the match. But he won by count out. He won by count out. So basically that's what he's saying is basically like it's a Lex Luger situation where you build and build and build and build and build until you get them to the point where the fans are really kind of after it. He's selling a ton of merchandise, TV ratings are where they should be, and then you beat him. And then you expect him to be as over afterwards. And I have to say that part is true. He's not going to be as over after the match as he was before it. But that's only because of the way you told the story. All right? The way that you tell the story is that it's not the end. All right? The issue with these stories is they're putting periods in these situations because Roman's not double backing against these guys. All right. If Roman had beat Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber, while Sami Zayn is the most over he has ever been, and then he's going to wrestle him at WrestleMania 2, he would not have lost his momentum. If he had beaten Cody only for him to still be involved with Cody months and months later, I don't think Cody would have lost anything. If he was feuding with LA Knight and he beat LA Knight, but that wasn't the end, then I don't think his LA Knight would be less over. The issue is these guys are not going to get rematches. Like Roman's done with them. Okay? Well, except for maybe Cody, because we might be doing this again at WrestleMania. But for what we see, these guys are done. All right? So it's not going to make the fans like them less, but it will mean that everything that they do after they feud with Roman is going to be less important than when they were feuding with Roman. And that's going to be the case for anybody who feuds with Roman. And it would have been the case if they had beaten Roman. Hear me when I say that. Even if they had won, they would still end up being less over. Because the point is they were super over because they were going to compete with Roman Reigns. Once that part was done, it was coming down. The exact same thing happened with Daniel Bryan. They beat him. He was super over. They beat him. He got more over. They beat him again. He got more over. They beat him again. He got more over. They didn't even put him in the Royal Rumble. or did they beat him in the Royal Rumble? It's one of the two. And then he got to WrestleMania. He won the title, beat Triple H and the rest of Evolution in one night, and was less over the next night, almost immediately, because everybody got their climax. All right? Everybody got their climax. They came already, so now they're pushing rope. If Sami Zayn would have beaten Roman Reigns, he would have been less over at WrestleMania than if otherwise. Unless he was wrestling Roman Reigns again. Okay? Jey Uso, less over, because now he's not feuding with Roman anymore. The only thing about the Bloodline story that has killed careers is the fact that people are kicked away from it. Once you're out of it, you no longer have anything to do with it. You're less over because you were over because you were involved with this storyline. It was the same thing with the NWO. It was the same thing with the corporation and Austin and the McMahons and all of them. Guys got more over the more they were involved with that story. They got less over the less involved they were in. Mankind is a great example. Mankind super over when he beat The Rock. Super over when he beat The Rock again. By WrestleMania, he barely had a spot on the card. What was he doing in May of that year? Nobody fucking knows. He was less over because he had gotten to the top. He got the belt. He was still involved with The Rock, so he stayed over. But then as soon as they positioned The Rock towards somebody else, meaning Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind got less over. That's what it means when somebody is hot. At the time, The Rock was hot. You put your hottest babyface and your hottest heel in one match. That's your WrestleMania match. I wouldn't have even put the belt on Foley at the time. It was the right thing to do, and narratively, it was the right thing to do. But I probably wouldn't have done that because I wouldn't have wanted The Rock to lose before he lost to Austin. That's just me, though. I'm not a hot shot the belt kind of guy, you know. But narratively, it was the right thing to do. You had to give Mankind something for that situation. Just like Sami Zayn had to get something from the whole Bloodline story. He got the main event at WrestleMania. He got a huge pop when he won the tag team titles, but it became progressively less and less over. When they were done with the Usos, that shit came down. The storyline was over. Now it's time to do something else. But you weren't the hot entity. You were a part of something that was hot that went away and did something else. It's like being, you know, it's like being a great musician in a really hot band, and then you think you're going to break off and do your own thing, and then those fans don't follow you over there. You know, like when guys do solo records, you know, like if you're a fan of the Temptations and you got to listen to Eddie Kendrick's solo album, you know, not everybody's going to do that. Everybody's not Wu-Tang fans. Like Wu-Tang fans will listen to everything Wu-Tang. All the individual albums, all the Killer Armies and the Killer Bees and all that bullshit, the Grave Diggers, they listen to all that. Because it's basically a cult, right? But most other people, they like one or two guys. If those guys leave the band, they leave the group, and they go do their own thing, people are like, hey, come back. I'm not about to follow you out there. Hey, come back. You know? It's the same thing. You're a part of a hot show, a hot part of the show. If you leave that, you can't expect everybody to follow you. I didn't say Eddie Kendricks was whack. I'm just saying not everybody is going to be down to follow the solo act. That's what I'm saying. It ain't about whether he's garbage or not. It ain't about whether he's whack or not. He's most known as Eddie Kendricks of the Temptations. Once he leaves the Temptations, people are kind of going to be like, convince me to follow you. You know? Yo, Mongo, how can I send you the AEW video on Discord? Well, go to Discord and post the link in the Discord, Phil. The Discord should be in the About page, I think. If it's not there, then I think one of the WG Phil's in Discord all the time. He could probably help you out. But you gotta consider that some people like the band more than the individual. You know, somebody likes the thing that's going on or the storyline more than they like the individual. You know, Eddie Kendrick's rules. You know, I was listening to it was a song that sampled Eddie Kendrick's recently. I forget what song it was. I think was it a Kanye West song? I don't want to look for it because it'll be dead air until I find it. But you know, not everybody's Bobby Brown. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody can go off and do their own thing. You're a part of this storyline. If the storyline is over, yeah. So everybody who gets involved with the storyline is going to be more over. And it became a running thing where you could put anybody in the bloodline story in the blood, and the shit will continue to be over. The Mysterios, Riddle, Randy Orton. You can just dump random people in that storyline. Xavier Woods. You know, like you can just put random people in the storyline, and the storyline will continue to be hot. But then what happens when those people leave that storyline? The interest in it goes down. And that even applies to the fucking Usos. Soon as Jey Uso got moved to Raw, things cooled off for him. He's still one of the most over baby faces on the company. Don't get me wrong, but it's cooled off. The Jimmy Uso stuff cooled off because Roman was gone for months and months. You know, you got to recognize that you don't want to get people to believe that losing was killing people's careers, because if they'd have won, they'd have still been less over because Roman was still going to go away. So it wouldn't have mattered that much, you know? I can't believe Darren Gordon-Hill says the greatest count out of all time. Greatest count out win ever. Oh my God. No, never has a count out win done more damage to somebody's career than Lex Luger winning at SummerSlam. You got to build up things, you know, and the babyface has to fail, you know, but it has to make sense. You have to do things where it makes sense. To Stevie Richards' point, they beat Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. They didn't need to beat him at 14. They beat him at 13. And then they beat him again a couple of weeks after that, because he lost to Undertaker in the Cold Day in Hell match. He lost that match too. And then I think he lost to Brett not too long after that too. So Steve Austin was losing a lot in 97. 98 was his Superman year. That was his year where he was going to kick it into high gear and be the man. He couldn't lose in 98. He had already done all his losing in 97. And he was super over then too. He had won the Royal Rumble that year, was red hot going into WrestleMania, and he lost. And he lost nothing in losing. Then he lost nothing in losing to Undertaker. Nobody gave up on him. So you got to get it out of the way. If you'd have had Cody beat Roman Reigns, I think that would have been great. But by this point, people would have been sick of Cody. They'd have been ready for Cody to go away. They just said, oh my God, what the fuck did they do? Why did Cody win this title? It should have been Sami Zayn. It should have been yada, yada, yada. It'll probably still be LA Knight should win the belt. You know, yada, yada, yada. People do that stuff all the time, bro. I don't think doing something for the pop is the right move. even if it's narratively something that makes sense. Sami Zayn wins the title and loses it on SmackDown 2 weeks later. Like, bro, what the hell? Why would you do that? Why would you even do that? What would be the point of that? Like, nah. But ultimately, the issue is that they're no longer involved with the bloodline story. That's the problem. You don't want to kill the golden goose. Why kill the golden goose for this guy or some other guy? If you're going to have somebody beat Roman, that should be somebody you're going with for the future, for the long term. You know? And LA Knight probably wasn't going to be the guy. And that's probably mostly because of his age. You know? I saw a dude give away free drums on social media. I was like, everybody doing beats. Everybody's a producer now. Darren Gordon-Hill is actually pretty good though. Like he does like a lot of the music for the channel, you know. So I really appreciate when he gets in the lab and actually does stuff. He's actually not bad. You know, he's pretty good. But you got to think about this thing. If he'd have won, then what? He be wrestling who? Because Roman's still a top heel. He's gonna wrestle Roman again? No. Roman beats beats this top guy, goes on to the next one. You know? I mean, it's that simple. The bloodline story must continue until it gets to its conclusion. It's not at the conclusion yet. You know? I know that's pissing people off, but we're not there yet. You know? I don't see the point in the small blips and having this guy lose the title here and this guy win the title here, and next you know, Roman in this 3-year span is a 7-time champion. What's the? Because he had to lose it to McIntyre and he had to lose it to this guy, had to lose it to that one, without recognizing that all of this is built on the fact that these people have not beaten him. That's why all this stuff is coming from. That's where all the heat is. All the heat has come from they haven't beaten him. The only person who has beaten him is Jey Uso. You know? And he needed to win. Narratively, that made sense. He did a really good job on the Bloodline Civil War. That was my favorite part of the storyline so far. Because it felt natural. It felt like we were going towards a crescendo. But unfortunately, they dropped the ball with the tribal combat, you know, with the finish being so obvious. And then Jimmy Uso going right back to the bloodline. Even though, you know, there may be some chicanery where Jimmy and Solo going to end up leaving Roman again, which, you know, I think is pretty obvious. But and maybe even Solo taking the reins as being like the next top guy as Roman kind of fades away. But the tribal combat was the first real misstep of the bloodline story. You know, that finish being so contrived pissed everybody off. You know, you can't kill the golden goose. Or like, why would you want to? What are you going to build the show around if you kill the bloodline story? Cody beats all the good guys, the bad guys up, pins Roman. Now what? Now what? He fights the Usos individually. He just sits back and waits for Roman to return. Then he wrestles fucking LA Knight and at a, you know, at some kind of house show or something like that. I don't know. There's no point, you know. There's no point because you're gonna get your wish eventually, which is what everybody wants. Is that for the bloodline to go away, you're gonna get your wish eventually, and then you're gonna be very upset because then nothing on the show is gonna be hot anymore. Nothing's gonna matter anymore. There's not gonna be any stories anymore. You're gonna go back to complaining. It's the same thing they did with the Authority. I heard so many people say they hated the Authority. I hate this storyline. It sucks. I can't stand this. They're cheating too much. Randy can't win a match on his own. Blah, 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 blah. And as soon as it was over, everybody was like, this show sucks. It sucked. But then they were smart because they didn't pivoted to Seth Rollins after that. They pivoted to the Shield. So that was the next year, though, if I remember correctly. So it took a little while before they went into the breakup of the Shield, and Seth Rollins became the guy. Actually, that was later that year because Seth Rollins turned heel right after Backlash, if I remember correctly, and it was Shield versus Evolution. And then he turned heel. He won the Money in the Bank. He kept it until WrestleMania, where he cashed in on Roman and won the belt. Roman and Brock. So, and that was all part of the Authority storyline, by the way. The Authority storyline did not end with Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan's part of the Authority storyline ended it right there. The moment he had both of those belts, his part of the storyline was over, and he became less over because of it. Now, injury cut it short, and so people were kind of still clamoring for the run. But when he came back, they put him in the Intercontinental title picture for a reason. It was over. He never did get the run, quote unquote, but it was over. It was done for. It was done for. All right, but that's how stories work. You have your heel, your baby face. They run alongside parallel for a while. The baby face meets the heel. In typical storytelling, the heel finds some way to win the fight. And then he goes forward, and the babyface has to start the climb back. And then they meet again. And then maybe, depending on what kind of story you're telling, the heel may win again. And then he'll go forward, and then the babyface will chase him and then beat him. So you have to figure out what kind of story you're telling. But if the babyface beats the heel the first time, and then beats him every time, he's fucking Wile E. Coyote at that point. That's why this stuff that's why it don't work like that. It doesn't. You can't have Wile E. Coyote heels. Team Rocket. That was the thing about me that pissed me off about the way Vince booked some heels sometimes. And people were like, WWE stopped being a babyface promotion. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's just crazy right there. Part of the reason why you stopped watching WWE is because Roman was a super babyface who won all the time, never fucking lost, and Superman punched everybody. Like, everybody hated that shit. Everybody said they hated it. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know, man. It's hard to get into it, but traditional stories would tell you that the babyface can't beat the heel at least the first time. He has to beat him at least the second time or the third time, depending on what kind of story you're telling. And it depends on the amount of time that you want to use to tell the story. With the Authority storyline, which is like a super over storyline, Bryan Danielson was gypped in the first match, but he actually did beat Randy Orton the second time. And then he got gypped again, the Money in the Bank situation. No, he got Randy Orton cashed in the Money in the Bank, kicked the belt from Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan then wrestled Randy Orton one-on-one. He beat Randy, and then they did some kind of chicanery to get the belt from him. And then they never went back to that. I think they went to Randy and John Cena after that. And then it became Daniel Bryan having to work his way back into the storyline. And for WrestleMania season, which, who knows how that would have gone. But you have to figure out how you're going to tell the story. And since we all know that Roman is not losing the belt to Sami Zayn, why the hell should he? Well, he was in Montreal. It was his hometown. That was your reasoning? Your reasoning is he should lose because he's in his hometown. That's stupid. Get out of here, bro. You're not thinking with your big head right now. Use your common sense. Timu says, Austin worked so well because the obstacle was never winning the title. The obstacle was Mr. McMahon. Absolutely. That's the issue. Whether Austin had the belt or not, he had the same situation. The same situation was Vince hated him. It was the same story, whether he had the belt or not. And it worked better when he had the belt because at least he had some measure of leverage. You know, it was hard to justify why he was still being around if he wasn't the champion. You know, but that's what I mean by, and even if you look at the Steve Austin Corporation story of how, when people left that story, when people were involved with that storyline, they were over. When they weren't, they were less over. Ken Shamrock was one of those people. Big Boss Man was one of those people. I think Test was one of those guys. Mankind was one of those guys. Very few people left that corporation storyline more over than when they went in. Even like Undertaker came out of that storyline worse than when he went in. You know? And it had nothing to do with winning and losing. It was just that it was so hot that they tried to throw everybody in it. And anybody who touched it got hot. But then if you went away from that storyline too long, it died out. Which is typical, because you're not the hot entity. You were just the pal. You were just in the band. All right, y'all, it's 10 o'clock. Thank you all for your time. Thank you all you guys for dropping by. Hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you hit the like button. We'll do it again soon, maybe Sunday. How about that? I don't know if there'll be a video up on Sunday. Saturday, Friday or not. Probably not. I'll talk to you guys later, man. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you guys later.